Hello everybody. Larry from SuperTech University. We are going to be going over job costing today. We got some really cool information I would like to share with everybody. And I'm going to bring up a slide deck that's going to help an awful lot. And a lot of this Eric uses in his book, Road to Seven Figures. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here as well. Okay. I forget which chapter is job costing. Knowing your numbers, I should say, actually. And it's super important to know these things. Understanding your financials, page 65. And it would be great if everybody knew their numbers well, because that's what we're going to be talking about here today. When you charge, he's got a diagram of the job costing. I'm going to share a link for that on page 68 when you're doing your job costing. When you know your numbers thoroughly, how much you should charge for a job. And we're going to go through that thoroughly. You want to make sure you're not overbidding or underbidding. And we learned this the hard way because we totally underbid so many jobs in the beginning. It was terrible. And we had to learn pretty much that what happened there. It's not sharing properly. Why that just popped up. There we go. Okay, so we're good to go here. We learned it the hard way. We would estimate jobs for a couple $1,000s, and we would spend a couple $1,000s, and there would be no profit left over. That's significant. And if you don't look at your numbers thoroughly, you're going to have these problems. So check it out. Let's get started here. And it's about job costing. And I'm going to have a scenario here that you can, I don't know if you think of, and you need to know a little bit of math. It's not that you need to know math and algebra and stuff like that, but just looking at numbers goes a long way. And I have a chalkboard behind me, and I'll show you some things afterwards that might make a difference. Okay? What if you can make 20% more on each job, but you're going to lose 20% of your clients because they're not going to pay more? So you could do these numbers very easily. You should know your average job, how much you charge for your average job. And at least somebody would know it just off the top of their head. You could probably go in your CRM, whether it's Service Titan, Service Monster, House Call Pro, whatever you're using, even QuickBooks, find out your average job. Okay? And we're going to use some scenarios here. So say, for example, your average job is 500 bucks and you do 40 jobs a month, right? Each job takes about 4 hours. So it takes you 4 hours to make $500. You do 40 jobs a month, okay? That's 20 grand gross income coming in. You work for 160 hours. It's 125 bucks an hour. Okay, that's what the math averages out to be. Okay. Now, if you increased your ticket price by 20%, your average ticket would be $600. But you would lose 20% of your clients. So you only have 32 jobs a month. So it's 8 jobs left and 100 bucks more per job. Okay. And this is just something to get your mind thinking. Okay. So that's $1,900, $200 gross income, $800 less, working for 128 hours a month, much less. And you're averaging $150 an hour. Now I'm going to put this in a sheet here. It's going to show it. And you got to stop and think and look at it. Okay. So your average job is 500 bucks. You do 40 jobs and you gross 20 grand. You raise your prices 20%. You're at 600 bucks, 32 jobs, $1,900, $200. So time per job, 4 hours, 160 hours for the $500 job. For the $600 job, charging more, 4 hours times 32 jobs gives you 128 hours. That's 32 hours. That is divided by 8. That's 4 extra days. You have 4 days more off. Okay? 4 days off, you're losing 800 bucks. Okay? That's not bad. You're getting $25 more per hour average. So odds are, this is how I thought about it. You got 32 hours. You don't think you can create more jobs at 600 bucks a job within that 32 hours and make that 800 bucks up? That's like a job and a half, even less. You're charging more per hour, you're making more money per hour. That's what you want to do. Okay. This is just part of the job costing, thinking about your numbers and knowing what you want to charge. Okay. Now, which would you rather do? There's many ways of looking at this. I'm going to go back a little bit. If you're conservative, the DISC is important. I should have a presentation on DISC. If you're more conservative in your approach, you're going to keep charging 500 bucks a job, and you're going to do that for a long time. There are many guys that stay on the truck, and they do fine. They charge 500 bucks a month, 500 bucks a job, and they do that for years. We have to realize that 500 bucks needs to go up because the cost of things gets higher. That's a whole different conversation. The guy that's trying to grow his business, trying to get a team around him, trying to have multiple trucks, trying to have a facility, own his building, is going to be raising his prices and looking at these numbers like this. This is the mentality that we try and present. One is not better than the other. I'm going to make it seem like raising your prices better because that's what we lean towards, Eric, my business partner, and I, and that's how we did it. But we know many people that charge 500 bucks and they stay at that, and they have a similar pay year in, year out. They raise them eventually if inflation goes up, etc. And that's a fine lifestyle if you're going to be doing the work yourself. But if you want people to work for you and you want multiple trucks, you got to start raising your prices and look at these numbers. Okay, so which is better for you? That's a personal decision you have to make. And I don't want to influence it, but I'm going to tell you the pluses and the minuses. Now, if we go back here again, the guy that's charging 500 bucks a job, he's grossing 20 grand times 12 months a year. That's 240 grand a year. In some parts of the country, that's good. In some people's minds, that's good. It's really good money for certain people. But this is the thing. You're going to get to a point after a certain amount of years that you're not going to want to do the work by yourself. You're going to run out of juice. You're not going to be able to do it. So you need to have some type of savings. So you got to take 20% out of that 20 grand, or maybe 30%, or something at least, whatever percentage it is, and put it into savings and put it into investments so that when you retire, you're going to have some type of money. You're going to have extra houses. You're going to have investments that you're going to use, that extra savings that you're putting towards. Of that 240 grand a year, you're putting towards some type of investments. And then that's going to be your retirement. Because if you're a single truck operator charging 500 bucks a job, you're not going to be able to sell your business. Many people come to us and they say, hey, we're ready to sell our business. And they're working on the truck. All they have is a job. They have a customer list. You're not going to be able to sell it for much money. Okay? That's fine, but don't expect to be able to sell your business for a lot of money. If you're charging 600 bucks a job and you're raising your prices and you're trying to gain trucks and market share and taking that approach, your business will be worth something someday. If you're creating systems around people, I mean, you're going to create systems on both sides of the equation. But if you're creating systems for growth, that's where that's where the difference is here. And which would you rather? Again, that's a personal preference. You just have to prepare each one so that you're going to be fine in the future. And I think this is really important to think about. Okay. So I'm going to move on here real quick. And we're going to talk about job costing here specifically. So your average job is $400. You got to take into consideration many things for that job. Your cost of goods sold, your overhead, and your profit. So those are the only three numbers or four numbers. How much you're charging, your cost of goods sold, your overhead, and your profit, because all of those need to be taken care of. So for example, the $400 job, oh, actually I should go back. I'm going to explain overhead, profit, and cost of goods sold. Now your overhead is your rent, or if you own the building, your mortgage, the insurance, your office labor, your pay, taxes, all the things that go into the cost of doing the business, except for cost of goods sold. So maybe I should change that. Not cost of doing business, but that should be something different. Let me see. I'm actually fixed business costs. That sounds a lot better. I'm going to change that, okay? Better, because I don't want to confuse anybody. Fixed. Now we understand that your taxes aren't fixed all the time, and your office labor isn't fixed all the time, your pay isn't fixed all the time. But generally speaking, if you get 20 jobs a month, 30 jobs a month, 28 jobs, 22 jobs, this is all going to be similar, okay? Now your cost of goods sold, this is why I didn't want to confuse it. So the cost of goods sold are the supplies. Cost of goods sold is the cost of the job, and this is what it includes. Supplies for the job. If you're doing plumbing, the pipe. If you're cleaning, the cleaning solution. If you're putting tape to hold things together, bags, disposable supplies, booties, whatever you're using that's on the truck that you're using on the job that is not something like, for example, your tools are cost of goods sold, but usually if you get like a wand or an expensive cutting tool or something like that, those tools are kind of fixed. They stay around for quite a while. They will go on cost of goods sold at one point, but not on every single job. These are things that you use on every single job. If you go through tools on every single job, that is what goes into supplies for the job. And then labor, travel time, gas, if you're paying anybody sub accounts, these are the cost of goods sold, the cost that that individual job took you. Not paying for the insurance for the van, not the payment for the van, not the uniforms. All of that goes into overhead. The costs of the job are things that are specific costs you got to pay out that day for that job. Okay. And then the profit. It's what you deserve. It's not your pay. Your pay goes in fixed expenses. Okay. The overhead. And then what goes back into the company, you can put your profit back in the company. That's what profit is. And when the money's coming in from what you charge, you got to stop the money from going out. It's cost of goods sold and fixed expenses so you can have some profit left over. And you've got to be intentional about this. In the beginning, many companies, people don't even realize what they're doing, and that they look like the bank account has a lot of money, but in 2 weeks it's gone. You got to put some money away for taxes. You got to put some money away for if your insurance is going up. You got to take all of that out of the fixed expenses. What's left over is your profit. And this is how you figure it out. Okay. So say you have a $400 job. Okay. 40% goes in cost of goods sold, 40% goes in overhead, 20% profit. this ratio, the 40-40-20, might be a little bit different in your industry. Generally speaking, for the service industry, these are the numbers that you want to be looking at. Okay. So you want to know the ratio of where things go. And this is what I would start. This is where I would start. Okay. And we're going to get into this right now. So if you have a $400 job, right? 40% of your cost of goods sold is $160. 40% your overhead of $400 is $160. 20% of your profit, 20% of $400 is $80. Okay? So when you get paid for that $400, you can put 160 in one bucket, 160 in another bucket, and 80 in another bucket. That's what you need to do. And you want to keep all of your overhead for the month in an amount there where that $160 is going to reach the top of that by the end of the month. Same thing, their cost of goods sold is going to be paid for in every single day. And then you want to put that $80 profit in another bucket and save that for yourself or for the business. Okay? And this is what's very important. Now, when you go and estimate a job, you figure out your time, your supplies, your gas, your travel time, and all of everything that's going to take to do the job. Say it's going to be $400. Okay, it's going to cost me $400 to do this job. How much do I charge the client? You don't say in your head, oh, well, I'll make $100 on the job. Many people do that. You don't want to do that. Because if your cost of goods sold is going to be $400, you go back over here to this ratio, 40, 40, and 20. Okay? Now, if your cost is $400, how much do you charge for the job? Okay, this is what I'm saying, 40, 40, 20. So, you want to have 40% of your job to be $400. Now, this is a little bit of math. And we could do this in a couple different ways. I'm going to use examples here on the board, actually, just to make sure everybody gets this, okay? So you want to have 40% of your job to be $400. So you take 400 divided by 40%, you're going to charge $1,000 for the job. Okay? The math is 400 divided by 40%. And I'm going to go over that in just a second on the board. So if you have a $1,000 job, 40% cost of goods sold of $1,000 is $400. 40% for overhead of $1,000 is $400. 20% profit of $1,000 is $200. So now you know why you're charging $1,000 for the job. Because everybody says, oh my God, you're charging so much money. Well, you're not. That $400 for the cost of goods sold, you're going to be spending. That $400 for overhead goes towards rent, insurance for the car, insurance for the vehicle. It's going to go towards the uniforms you're wearing. It's going to go towards the phone that you're calling people on. It's going to go towards any insurance for liability, workers' comp. That adds up to be a lot of money. And you need to put 40% of whatever your bill is towards that. And then you deserve a 20% profit for the company. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to explain, I feel like an algebra teacher, but the cost of the job, the cost, let me get one. Whatever you're going to charge. Okay, whatever you're going to charge for the job. Okay? You want cost of goods sold over what? 40%. Actually, hang on a second. Explain this properly. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Your cost of goods sold, what you're going to charge for the job. I'm getting ahead of myself. So your cost of goods sold is going to be $400. Like we're just talking about. That's how much you're going to charge. I'm sorry, that's how much the cost of the whole job is going to be. On your estimate, you see the $400 it's going to cost you to do the job. You don't know how much you're going to charge at this point, but you do know that you're going to want that to be 40% of that. Okay? So what you have here, and I'm going to do some algebra. And this is how I came up with the formula that we just went over. So you swap that 40%. So you have 400 over x. That's the variable we want to find out. How much to charge? What do you say? Charge equals 0.4. 40% equals 0.4. So you swap those. 400.40 equals charge. How much you're going to charge? That's the math. If anybody remembers that from high school, you're swapping these numbers. That's it. Okay? Take 400 divided by 0.4. Okay? 400 divided by 0.4 equals 1,000. That's how much you charge. Okay? This is what you know, and you know it needs to be 40%. You don't know how much it's to charge. And you do this. That's it. You don't need to know all this. It's the background. Okay? I'm going to get back to my slides presentation here. And that's how you come up with it. Okay? Back to slide. Back to slide. There we go. 400 divided by 40%, what you charge for the job is 1,000. Okay? Whoop. So my mouse has a mind of its own. This is what takes a lot of thinking. You got to think about this. It's important. What would happen if you did business the same way? It wouldn't work very well. Now, if you say to yourself, well, and I'll do something else here. I'm going to expand some numbers because obviously we have time. I'm only halfway done. And this is some more numbers. Okay? And you got to write down these numbers because if you don't know your numbers, I mean, that might scare people, make them nervous. Let me see something here. Uh, okay. You should be able to hear me a little bit better there. So I have more time. I didn't think I'd have this much time, but check it out. See, we'll find out your overhead, your fixed expenses. See your rent. That's per month, okay? This is per month. This is your overhead. And you got insurance, right? And maybe that's $100 a month, right? And you got a truck payment. And that's going to be $600 a month. Okay. And then you got to pay yourself. Say you want to pay yourself $2,000 a month. And then what else are you gonna have to pay for? You're gonna have to pay for gas. That's gonna be $300 a month. And then we'll think of one more thing. You need supplies for your job, whether it's cleaning supplies, plumbing supplies, HVAC. Say that's gonna be $1,000. Okay, what does that total up to? That's 1,100, 1,700, 3,700, $4,000, $5,000. Let me make sure that's right. 673. Yeah. So that's your overhead. So if that's your overhead, I'm going to spin this over here a little bit. Right, divided by 0.4. It says, what's that? This is what I was saying earlier. How much you need for the month. It's 40%. Okay. 40% is 0.4. So you take 5,000 divided by 0.4. Equals 1,250. $12,500. That's how much you need to have coming in every month if these are your expenses. And then you're going to have a cost of goods sold. Actually, yeah, so you do the same thing. 1,250 times 0.4. We know is going to be 5,000. Oh, so about 5,000. We'll move this over a little bit more. This is your cost of goods sold, right? What's your profit? Okay, it's 1,250. It's going to be 20%. So what does that equal? Whoops. So you have 2,500 bucks profit. That's great. If you do everything correctly, that's going to be your profit. That's the most exciting number. That's exactly what you want to happen. 5,000, 5,000. This is your overhead here. Okay. I hope that helps everybody. It's so important to understand this. I could go deeper into it if anybody wants to. You look at your P&L. Hopefully this is definitely being recorded so you can look at this. Since I have time, actually, does anybody have any questions here? I want to go, yes, how does it relate to your P&L? That's what I'm going to do. Okay. So if you look at your P&L, let's turn this again. At the top of it, you have cost of goods sold, which is your labor, your gas, and you get a gross income. We'll use that number 12,500 that we just had, right? Labor, Oops. I'm sorry. I'm messing this all up. Oh, 500, right? That's your income. And then your cost of goods sold is your labor, supplies, gas. And we want that to be 40%, which we know is 5,000. And then you subtract that out there. That's 7,500. Get an extra zero. So you know what this is called? Gross profit. Okay? Gross profit is 7,500 bucks. Then you have your fixed expenses. And there's a lot of things there. Like I was saying earlier, rent, insurance, trucks, um, phones, any marketing, right? That's going to be 7,500 also, based on that amount. This is 40%. This is 40%. And you have your net. Right? That's going to be 2,000. Shoot. What did we do over there? Am I moving my numbers incorrectly? Oh, that's right. 75, 700 is 13. 12,500 4 equals. It's 5,000. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. 7,500. This is 5,000 right there and right there. Oop, there we go. That's where I was off. And I thought I was going to be able to share this again. Your net profit after the 5,000, I'm sorry, 7,500 minus 5,000, your net profit is 2,500 bucks. Okay? Income coming in is 12,500. 40% of that, of your labor, your supplies, your gas, and everything else, is 40%. 12,500 minus 5,000 is 7,500. Subtract your rent, insurance, truck, phone. All of this right here is 5,000. That's 40% also. Subtract 5,000 from 7,500 and you get 2,500. That's your net. Okay? It's something that doesn't come to you quickly. I get it. But it's something that you have to think about. And when you know these numbers, say, for example, let me go a little crazy here. Your average job, your average job is 500 bucks, right? Hang on a second. Okay. It's 25 jobs a month. 500 bucks per job times 25 jobs gives you that 12,500. Okay, so that creates that. If you want to raise your prices and get more jobs, you're going to increase your income. Your cost of goods sold is going to go up because you have more jobs, but your fixed is going to stay the same. Okay, so say you have to look at your numbers. I don't want to do this because I'll make a mess of it. Just winging it off the top of my head. It's something you have to sit and look at and figure it out. $500 job, 25 jobs gives you 12,500. That's your income. You can break it down right here. And then if you want to know that your fixed expense is going to go up or your cost of goods sold are going to go up, your income is going to have to change. Thus, your amount of jobs or how much each job costs is going to have to raise as well. If your average drops, hopefully your cost of goods sold will drop, but this is going to stay the same generally. No matter how many jobs you do, your rent's going to stay the same, your insurance is going to be very similar, your trucks is going to be the same, your phone's going to be the same, your marketing is probably going to be similar. You got to think about this stuff. Anyway, do we have any other questions that might be able to be helpful? My number is, I'm going to write it right here. So I hope I didn't confuse anybody. It's not an easy thing. It's something you got to work on. That's my phone number. You go through this, you have any type of confusion, you call me up. Larry, send me a text. Say, I want to know what's going on here. This is important. The most important thing, well, close to the most important thing in your business, you got to know where you stand. So, anyway, Larry from SuperTech University. I hope I'm helpful with this. Anybody have any more questions or anything, reach out whenever you want. And I am out. We'll see you.